You don't have to be in the big leagues to use the same mental training tools as the pros. And visualization is one of the easiest places to start. Mental rehearsal, or visualization, is a secret weapon athletes can use to sharpen their skills, boost their confidence, and stay motivated. And the best part is that you can practice it anywhere. You literally need no gym, no field, no equipment required. Today, we'll break down why visualization works, how it strengthens your brain body connection, and how young athletes can start using it right away. Welcome to Confident Common Clutch Car Ride Conversations. I'm your host, Valerie Alston, here to help parents and young athletes spark meaningful dialogue about mental toughness, resilience, and confidence. Whether you're headed to practice, a game, or just running errands around town, this podcast is your go-to for building stronger relationships and lifelong skills, one car ride at a time. Let's dive in. All right, so what is visualization and why does it work? So, visualization is the term that most people use, but it's essentially mental rehearsal. It's the practice of creating or recreating an experience in your mind very vividly. And by vivid, I mean with as much detail as possible. So, we're talking sights, sounds, smells, touch, taste, okay? Because when you visualize with that level of detail, it tricks your brain into thinking that is real. Okay. Our brain is such that it doesn't always know the difference between reality and fiction. And so this is why, for instance, when you wake up from a bad dream, your heart is pounding, your heart's racing, you're sweating, you maybe scream or something along those lines, because the dream, the image in your head felt very real, and your body was interpreting that as real and sent all these signals to your body. Okay. And so that connection that exists when we're sleeping, we can leverage that same idea that when I very vividly picture something and imagine something in my head, it causes my body to respond as if that is real. Okay, so we can do this intentionally and on purpose by purposefully daydreaming, for lack of a better term, but by purposely creating an image in our head of something that we're trying to accomplish, of a skill we're trying to execute, of maybe a mental game plan that we are trying to enact, some strategy or tactics we're trying to employ during our sport. Okay. And the cool thing is it interacts in a couple of different ways. Is one, when you very vividly imagine yourself doing something, your neural pathways innervate, right? They cause your body to, your muscles to move in the same motor pathways as if you were really doing it. So, for example, back in the early days, they were doing research with skiers, downhill skiers, and they had the skiers hooked up to electrodes and stuff, and they had them ski a downhill course. And they measured how their muscles were moving, how tight, how much they were firing, and all that kind of stuff. And then they had that same skier, that experienced skier, vividly imagine. So they were sitting on a just in a chair, still hooked up, and they had that athlete, that skier, vividly imagine that exact same course that they just finished, that they're super familiar with, and imagine themselves taking the curves and doing the turns. And what they found is that their muscles were still firing. They were acting, firing as if they were actually doing what they were imagining. Now, it wasn't to the same degree, and it's never gonna be the same as physical practice. In fact, there's research that shows that. Okay, so physical practice is always going to trump mental practice, but mental practice is significantly better than doing no practice at all. Okay, so because you're actually causing your body to move, right, to innervate, to act. Okay, and so this is might look like a gymnast mentally running through her routine before stepping on the beam, a baseball player picturing the next pitch sequence, right, envisioning himself successfully hitting the ball the other way, whatever that is. Okay, so our brain doesn't really tell the difference between reality and fiction. The other thing is it helps us do is create a mental blueprint. And by mental blueprint, this is something that the Army does very well, and I've learned this from them. They call it sand tables or rock drills, but before every mission, you'll see, and maybe if you watch some movies, you can see it, but they do what's called a sand table. So they'll create this little mock overhead view of the experience, and they'll say, okay, this part of the convoy is moving here. These people are doing this right here. Okay, if we get attacked from this side, we're going to move in this way. And what it is basically like an overhead view of the tactics of what are we getting ready to go do. And what that does, so it builds the blueprint, the mental blueprint, the decisional pathways of what we're going to go do, but it also enables them to be more reactive in the sense of they plan for anticipated setbacks, or they call it contingency planning. Okay, this is the plan, but if X happens, what will we do? If Y happens, what will we do? And so what they've done is they've done all the decisions before they go act so that when they're out in the field and actually in a threat environment, they don't have to waste time thinking because they've done all the thinking ahead of time and they can just say, okay, plan B, let's go do that. So it's a really great strategy for creating mental blueprints and helping you be prepared for different events. Okay. So it's a very versatile tool that's really important. Okay. Now, there's a couple ways that visualization can specifically help you. One is to help you build motivation. When you are maybe worried or scared or doubtful about a particular performance, or maybe you're just new at it and you're just trying to gain confidence, because we know when you're not confident, it can sometimes be really like you lack motivation to do it or work on it because you're like, I don't know if I can. And so often a way to help you build motivation is to envision yourself being successful. Okay. It's literally training your brain to be successful. Like it's a mental movie of whatever success looks like for your sport or whatever you're trying to practice. So maybe this is a track athlete imagining crossing the finish line, right? Ahead of their peers, a soccer player picturing the team celebrating after they make the penalty kick, right? But it's envisioning the success that you want to see. Because often what holds us back to be motivated or confident is limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, like seeing, no, not knowing if we can be successful. And so if you've just implanted in your head by regularly and often imagining yourself being successful, it helps eliminate some of that doubt. Okay. Now, it obviously requires that you back that up with training and learning your skills, etc. But visualization and mental rehearsal can be a huge tool to just connect you back to why are you working so hard? What's it worth it? Like you're envisioning this success of the future. Okay. It can also really help you sharpen your focus. And so, what this can help you do, for instance, in particular, is really understanding the shift from into game mode. Is you can use visualization and mental rehearsal as part of your pregame routine to block out distractions and help narrow your attention back towards the game or the game that you're getting ready to play. Okay. So this might be, for instance, a basketball player mentally rehearsing a few free throws right before they take the shot, tuning out the crowd. This could look like a swimmer imagining a perfect dive as they're standing behind the starting blocks, waiting for the judges to allow them to step up onto the blocks. It could be anything, but it's that process of locking in and being like, okay, here's what I'm getting ready to go do. And I'm visualizing and I'm mentally rehearsing that in my head. Okay. And I've spent a little bit of time talking about this in a previous episode that visualization also helps you build confidence. It's one of the ways, it's one of the forms of confidence, sources of confidence that we pull from is vicarious experience or previous experience. And so imagining yourself doing something successfully feels like a previous experience. So it's helping you build that trust in your skill set and your preparation. And so imagining yourself successfully completing a skill, a tennis player picturing the smooth, controlled serve, softball pitcher throwing strikes under pressure, whatever that is. Okay. So it can boost your confidence because you feel like you know what to do. All right. Now, imagery isn't just going to magically work for you. It's a skill like anything else, and you have different degrees of ability to imagine what you want. So there's three core things that you want to focus on to make sure that your imagery is actually working for you. The first thing you want to make sure is that the content itself, what you're choosing to imagine, is actually helpful for you. Okay, for whatever purpose you're using imagery, whether it's to gain confidence, to focus, to be motivated, the content of what you're imagining needs to be hopeful, right? You want, if you're building neural pathways and muscle memories and mental blueprints, you want them to be the right neural pathways and muscle memory and mental blueprints. You don't want to imagine yourself being unsuccessful or seeing yourself make mistakes because you're literally grooving that neural pathway in your body. Okay, so the content, what you're choosing to imagine, you want to make sure you have control over it and that it stays in a productive space for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you should never visualize yourself being unsuccessful. There's a nuance there that you can imagine yourself overcoming setbacks. So maybe you've already made the mistake and you're seeing yourself recalibrate or you're seeing yourself bounce back from that mistake, right? That's helpful. Ideally, you would not want to continue envisioning the mistake itself. Okay, does hopefully that makes sense. The other thing you want to, as I mentioned at the top of this, is that the one thing that's really going to make your mental rehearsal and visualization actually useful and productive is how vivid you make it. You have to make these images as real as possible. And so if you need to add pictures, like looking at diagrams, if you need to add movement, I know this is something that if you've ever watched a boxer, they kind of shadow box, it's called, and they're like imagining an opponent and they're practicing different combinations and all that kind of stuff. It's what's your equivalent of shadow boxing for your sport, okay? You can add a little bit of movement. Often you'll see divers and gymnasts, you see them doing that like tuck and move, like they're doing short movements, and there's a lot of spinning and flipping and stuff involved, okay? And so that's what we mean by adding movement is that you're doing micro movements to get your body in sync with what you're trying to imagine in your head. Sights, sounds, smells. Again, you're trying to add whatever relevant sensory information you need to make that image as real as possible so that it's actually getting the results you want in your body. Okay. Now, there's two perspectives you can take when you're doing imagery. You can take a third person perspective, seeing yourself from outside your mind, like from above, and watching yourself do something, or as if you're watching game footage, right? Or you can see yourself through your own mind's eye. Typically, the external perspective is good if you're trying to learn like tactics or knowing how to move in a particular, if you're imagining a zone defense, right? And you're trying to figure out where do I go? Okay. It's typically better for that, like big picture maneuvering type things. Whereas internal perspective through your own mind's eye is better for experiencing like if there's subtleties with how you need to move or if they're like just practicing your breath or helping you stay calm, right? So any kind of self-regulatory piece, but ultimately, they both work. And so finding a perspective that works for you, whatever you can hold on to in your head. But visualization becomes a really powerful tool for your training, for your mental toughness as you begin to be move up in the ranks of your athletic endeavors. Okay. It's what enables you to be successful. And if you listen to any interviews with any elite athlete, we're talking Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, shoot, I know there's a bazillion other athletes, but they all mention visualization and mental rehearsal as a key to their success. Okay. So the more you start doing it, the more likely you are to get the benefits from it. Okay. So let's dive into some conversation for today about how you can start using mental rehearsal. So again, a quick reminder, the conversation top prompts I have for you today, there are no wrong answers. Make sure you're taking turns talking and listening. I try to minimize your distractions as best you can. And remember that you can pause and discuss after each individual question, or you can listen to all of them and just talk about whatever's relevant for you. Okay? So this first one is specific to the athletes. If you could create a mental highlight reel for yourself, what play or skill would you want to see yourself doing over and over again? What's your highlight reel? What would that look like for you? What moments would you bring in from your sport, your moments of success or your moments of overcoming obstacles? What would that look like for you? What would that mental highlight reel be for you if you're trying to maybe create motivation or confidence or focus? Hmm? Second question, before a game, right? If you're really trying to get focused and locked in, what would be the most helpful thing for you to imagine in your head? Is it a single skill? Is it a routine? Is it like the tactics of the game that you're playing? What do you think? What do you think would be the best thing for you to imagine? And does it maybe change based on if you're getting ready for a tournament when there's multiple games or just one game? I don't know, talk about that. What do you think is going to help? Okay. This third question, parents, I don't want to leave you out. This is an important skill. This isn't just for sports. All right. So, as a parent, how could you use visualization in your own life? Maybe before a presentation, a meeting, or even through a tough situation that you deal with as a performer in your life. Talk with your kid about what are some ways that you can practice imagery and visualization to help you learn this tool as well. That way, you're both practicing together. What do you think? Okay. And then your final question for the day to talk amongst yourselves is to think about maybe a recent practice or game, probably a game, but what's one moment from your last practice or game that you could both visualize together so that you're ready to nail it next time? Like maybe your parents are visualizing it from the external perspective to give you some insight, or and you as the athlete are envisioning it from the internal perspective. What's something worth going over again in your head, reviewing it, thinking it through so that you can learn from it and grow as an athlete? Okay. All right, y'all. I hope you keep that conversation rolling, making those car rides count. Thank you again for joining me on these car ride conversations. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody. If you've got an athlete in your life that needs to brush up on their mental rehearsal, share this episode. If you're looking for more weekly tips, mindset shifts, and conversations to help you or your athlete stay confident, calm, and clutch, please consider joining my newsletter at www.confidentcalmclutch.com/newsletter. And if you have any suggestions for topics or something you'd like to hear me discuss, please, in the show notes, there's a link to message me directly, or you can go find me on Facebook and Instagram at V Alston Coaching and DM me. I look forward to having a chat with you. All right, y'all. Have a great day.